Hello, it's Scott and Rita again. We're doing a cosmic dialogue because I had a really crazy dream. Um, my dream was about, I'll just recap it, a dream about um, a time in the future where all jobs were sponsored by the government. And for some reason, my friend Tyler and I we're into our government job. Tyler in real life is my tennis buddy who plays tennis with me every once in a while. And I walked into work and he's like, "There's a UFO up above our building." But they're telling us we all have to go inside and work. And then we go inside to work, and then all of a sudden we hear this screeching and sawing, and like they're drilling into the top of the building and coming in. And Tyler and I are terrified, so we go and hide. While we're hiding, they break through, and then like the snow just starts falling in the office. It was like snowy and snow falling through, maybe made by the alien ship. I'm not sure. And then we hear a loud, low tones and screeching and hissing. And I see this tall, 7-foot white kind of female-looking being. The putty is coming out of her hands, and then she's spreading putty all around the floor, hissing and screaming. And we're both so terrified, but I realized that I needed to do something. I was so scared. I thought, I'm so scared. There's nothing to lose, and so I got out of there, grabbed a chair. Tyler screamed, "No, Scott!" and I screamed back at him, "You can't protect me, Tyler." I go out there with a chair, and the alien being, she just jumps away up into the ship 25 feet above, and then all of her putty is starting to solidify, and it looks like old carpet. And so I peel parts of it away and like throw it out the door into that different atmosphere, because we're all in this snowy atmosphere. And once it hits the air outside, it just disintegrates and disappears. And so I keep throwing out pieces of this carpet-like substance, and it all just disappears once it hits the air outside. And so once everything is finished, the scene changes and I black out, and I'm like back to a very weird old dream that I used to have, where I'm walking down a hallway trying to decide if I'm going to skip out on a history class, a history government class. And very common in dreams of mine. And then Tyler just shows up and says, "Scott, you have to remember. You have to remember what you just did." And so in the dream, I remembered again all that transpired with the aliens. And I said, "Okay, let's go back to where we were. Let's drive back." And we hop in Tyler's car. We go back to the place, to the drive into the old building. And the drive is now covered in lush desert plants, like 5 years growth, and blocked and closed. So that was my dream. And I kind of want to do a cosmic dialogue just to see what might be behind that dream, or some sort of...
I want to go first.
Okay. Good.
Okay, so it is 2025, and that dream you had 5 years ago showed you how things were actually going to be occurring in a way that nobody could have predicted or believed back then. And what you learned from it was that all these surprising things were going to be happening, and scary to most people, but you learned to notice the fear when you felt it, when these things actually did occur in the waking world, and to not just stay in that fear and let these beings overcome the situation, or take charge of the situation. Like, she could put out all of that putty, but we didn't have to let it stay. And So as you felt through that dream, you started to understand the fear and understand the way to counter the fear, and just treat them as intruders who could be moved along, because also brighter beings could come and visit. Once we weren't all hunkered down in our just, getting through life in our jobs and open to the worries and the fears that we have been told are just everywhere. Once we were able to live in faith and really believe that good things are coming, then brighter beings were able to visit, and they didn't have to drill through anything. They allowed us to voluntarily come and greet them. So this dream prepared you for all of that. And so you were able to lead others out of being afraid and just showing them how to deal with the less developed beings, maybe more developed than us in technology since they could visit, but less developed than the brighter beings who also could visit. Really the malicious, the ones with malicious intent. You taught people how to deal with them. And so then more and more fascinating and beautiful events started to happen. And this happened really quite quickly. So now it's just like, that's just the way it is. And we're all just expecting benevolent beings to come and visit and to have the freedom to learn from them. So how does that feel?
That feels really good. That in that time we could actually see. Well, I actually think going 5 years ahead, that this is kind of the progression. It was also like marked maybe like for me, if I look back 5 years ago to 2020, that dream, that might have marked the last time I was really afraid of this unknown of beings with malicious intent, because I dealt with that and I was actually able to move my fear of that malicious intent into action in my dreams. And so a lot of the things like the things of malicious intents that we learned, and even in maybe that there was things in our government at that time too, lots of malicious intent, lots of deception, lots of deceiving. And so there's nothing, it doesn't surprise me where I felt at that dream that all jobs were government led, that at that time we were so entrenched in our divisions and polarizations in government, and we didn't realize that all we had to do was expose them to, the real world rather than this world they created with the snow and the fear and the controlled environment. All we have to do is like take the fruits of their terror and expose them to the real world, and they would just disintegrate.
Yeah.
So that was what I had learned eventually from that dream, that, oh, okay, this is actually talking about beings in the world, and also, but other alien beings, plus also like how we're reflected in society, of like anyone with malicious intent, any being with malicious intent.
Just nope.
No.
Throw it out.
Throw it out and let it just stand the test against the real world, and stand the test against God's creation that's outside of this structure. And I did remember, like, after that dream, having that burning sensation of a snowflake hitting me. Um, so that was like, I think that was like one of my last reminders of, yes, those kings can really burn people, but it didn't last long. And once I just stayed outside for a while, the snowflakes just would just hit and would be cold, and that was it. So, um, yeah, and since then too, really beautiful assisting beings have been able to come forward. People could call them angels. People could call them aliens or interdimensionals, whatever they want to call them.
And they've always been here.
Yes.
We just weren't seeing them.
Right. And we've been allowing our fears of what we could create in our mind as like what these beings were supposed to be. Even like all sorts of other control systems are telling us how those beings need to look and need to feel, and they're out to get you and they're out to conquer you. And it was part of their tool for control, unfortunately. So something to be afraid of, something to cower to, something to hide under desks, and yeah.
And say, what do you want us to do? No.
Yeah.
What can we do to stay safe? No, that doesn't happen anymore.
Right. There's like, what do we do to stay safe is not a question anymore. It's, we realize that safety is kind of a misnomer statement. We live in the world that, we either, there's love and there's not love, and there's choice, and to rely on someone else to keep you safe without taking your own responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
And also there shouldn't be any fear of like, loss of, we have a loss of life, we have fear of loss of life, but it's that shouldn't be a controlling thing if we realize that we're eternal beings anyway.
That's what they show us, is that it's just a body.
Yes.
That we're afraid of losing.
Right. And also those other structures we're afraid of losing. The little structures of, I guess in my dream, that government job that kept us happy and secure and lively, and we didn't have to think about any other things, and then we could just, that way we could be afraid of this alien being. And all I had to do was show up, and that alien being jumped back into the ship. So, and left behind their whatever nasty thing, maybe like spores or whatever, to like grow their deception. And how I still don't know how I knew. Just lift up the carpet and throw it outside.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
there's also not this predominant feeling of, well, this is what I have to do. As in, well, I have to have this job because if I don't, all these bad things will happen. There's no feeling of, I have to do this because the authority has set it up this way, that most people don't really think of it that way, or didn't back then. They just feel that this is how life is, and you have to be miserable and just work your life away in something that you hate. And so that has disintegrated as well.
Yeah. So,
And government jobs, a lot of them are sponsored by the government now, but they're geared towards what our real strengths and talents and passions are. So nobody saw that coming.
Right. It wasn't just like a corral you into because this is what we need for industry or for this number or this nationalistic kind of thing. This is now, if there are government jobs, they're primarily and predominantly now based on people's talents and based on people's abilities. And
for
um,
the betterment of the whole society.
betterment of society. So it actually works really, really well in tandem with the nonprofit sector and in tandem with for-profit sector. And so it's not necessarily a, um, we're not necessarily being just fed on a token basis and controlled. So that's just
Yeah, we have
cool.
far more free will now,
Yes.
which we always had, but you picked up a chair and demonstrated it.
Yeah.
Just like those fictitious people in Arizona in 2016 at the Democratic convention.
Oh,
Those supposed chair throwers.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I never did see that terrifying being woman female figure. So it almost looks like an insect like. The image gets clearer as the years go by. It's like this darkened, wintry, cold, um, almost insect like, cold insect like being. So the image gets clearer, but yet less scary.
Well, you've seen her a few times because that was a wake-up call for her. You saying no was loving to her. And so she's been able, that was like a new thing. She's like, wait, what happened? He didn't cower. He didn't just get stuck in my putty. What's going on? Maybe I need to look at myself here because that didn't work anymore.
Yeah.
So she's actually changed her own condition.
That's nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, I think there's always a little bit. There are little flashbacks that always happen with other folks too, and this example actually helps me to actually see um, the fact that there are loving beings, and there's an alternative. And once I switched to that, out of the fear, knowing that I actually like exposed something to just the real world already, I don't need to do it again. So that way I can just pay more attention to loving beings.
Right. You don't have to go search out the darker beings.
Right.
Yeah.
And I still have dreams with some darker beings too, but I think they're a lot easier for me.
They turned into more of a call for help than it might have come in the form of a threatening persona because that's what they know, but they were coming to you because they saw what happened to her after you stood up to her.
Yeah, and I can see through the facades of I'm going to try and be this horrible, scaring, frightening being to you, and then I just say, oh, that's nice.
Thanks.
I know you're afraid. I know there's something wrong in your world. And so that kind of melts those beings away. It's a lot easier. So, and then, it's more of like, okay, you might just need to just move your energy along and understand that that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I also see there are remnants still of governments still trying to keep us in the old. They recognize that times have changed, that there's new energy and new light, as people are calling it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's still a little bit of a push, and that's where I think that driving along the desert plants, covering it up, everyone really knows the truth. There are still some factions of government and control who want to cover up the truth, just like the whole disclosure thing long ago. People were wondering if our government was ever going to disclose that they believe that aliens were real, and now it's not even a question. It's like people have learned that they were the ones who had to just disclose to themselves. So,
Mm-hmm.
I do recognize that there are other benevolent beings. And then that's when those things would show up. They don't need a government to tell them that. They don't need an authority figure to tell them, yes, we've dealt with aliens. Or other beings or angels or whomever.
Yeah.
It's just now accepted, and most people, it's something that's known, and it's one of those things that there's a small faction of government that still will never like authorize or sanction that, but we all just kind of laugh and say,
well, that road closure in your dream signified that you can't go back to the desert, to the old way.
That's true.
Once you see it,
can't unsee it, and you can't go back to the old way, but you also can't cover it up. You know, you can't just make it look like it should go away. So, because it was very significant, but yet you can't go back to it. You can't go back to the same way that you dealt with something. You can't go back to hiding, cowering.
Yeah.
So,
or if you really, really want to, you can travel through the brush and the harsh desert sun to get there. But the road won't be easy.
And that the building will have changed. The building's changed. Everything has changed. Very interesting. So, I don't speak to Tyler very much anymore. We've kind of drifted apart over the last 5 years, which is okay. I have different tennis people that I play with, different clubs that I'm at. I play doubles more. It's more just enjoyable rather than competitive. But, and I'm not quite sure why he came into that dream still, but I'm still very thankful that he was there to say, remember.
Yeah.
So I look for those people in dreams now, the ones who just are there to kind of coax me to remember something prior when I kind of shift in and out. So those people in those dream spaces are very significant. And plus, I think that dream also was very solidifying for me to like realize whenever we feel like we're living in a crazy dream world that's created in front of us, we probably are. And we just need to expose ourselves to the real world and let whatever that craziness is dissolve off of us. Hear the birds singing, walk in nature, feel your feelings when the wind hits your face. Those things are real.
Yeah.
So not the constructed melodramas of powers that be or those that we allow to have power over us.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Just flip the switch on yourself.
Yeah. I almost wonder if that big blue, that big being was doing this in other places. I often wonder, is she spreading her putty other places, or is it just doesn't work anymore? I don't think it works anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe this was the day.
Yeah. Anything else?
No, I think that's good.
Good. All right. That sounds good. Thanks, Rita.
Yeah. Thank you.